Ryan,
Tony, and Crystal.
We can't guarantee that you're gonna look great, but if you wanna stay in shape, well, you better hit the GymWits. That's right, man. You tell 'em.
welcome to the GymWits podcast. I'm Ryan George.
I'm Justin Guild, a.k.a. Chef Sonic.
And I'm Tony Marinucci, aka Tips with Tony, your registered dietitian.
And we are the GymWits.
So something interesting. Tony is like so healthy, and I know that that she is she's a dietitian, and she's all about it. But it's like, wow, like I eat pretty well. Ryan, you eat pretty well, but like Tony eats like so clean and so well. Like she brings her snacks with her to the studio, and it's always something like carrots or like cucumbers, an apple. It's like, and that's what she eats. It's like pretty cool to see like someone who's that dedicated.
I do practice what I preach.
Yeah, no, that's good. And it also just put things into perspective, right? Tony, you had mentioned that you had struggles with your weight when you were younger. And now I don't know if you mentioned that if eating sort of what for most people would be a normal diet would cause you to gain weight. Did you say that, or not be not gain weight, but not be in the shape that you want to be in?
Like if I didn't watch.
Yes, if you sort of had like what a lot of people could.
My body would not be what it is now.
So yeah. It just
my general like metabolism, like even though I work out, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I have to be kind of mindful of what I eat to feel my best, I would say.
Yeah. So it just puts interesting things into perspective. Like Ryan probably has the best genetics out of all of us. Well, like you could eat pretty much anything, and while you might notice a little bit of a fluctuation in how you look, you're still going to look awesome. Granted, you've been, working hard, and there has been times where you've like, quote, dieted like crazy to get to where you are. I feel like my genetics are pretty decent, right? It's very hard for me to be skinny, but I could generally eat a decent diet.
You're like permanent, like 30 strongman build.
Yeah.
You could be eating like crap and look like it, or you could be like, dieting and lifting heavy, and you'll just always look like 30 strongman.
Although the truth really is that when I'm not eating well, I don't feel great.
I was just actually going to say that how the way I eat, although it's great that my body has changed because of it, I changed my eating habits because I never felt well.
Yeah.
Like it makes me, the way I eat really affects the way that I feel. Everything from bloating, energy levels, mood, honestly. It really affects me in a lot of different ways. So
nice. Yeah. And so it's just interesting to see, someone who's like so dedicated. You don't see it that often. Even the people that I have seen that will go through, periods of eating clean, it's a period. Right, and like Tony,
I preach. That's what I preach. I practice what I preach. It's a lifestyle change,
And
I don't want to feel good for a month. I want to feel good every day.
And you do a great job at it. You really
Thank you, Justin.
So we got some good stuff today. Ryan's going to start with some studies.
Yep. So the first one is from the European Journal of Applied Physiology. For some reason, like my autocorrect, so I'm doing this on my phone, and autocorrect doesn't work as well in Evernote where I write my notes. And so more often than not,
you should download Grammarly.
Grammarly?
Grammarly.
Okay. Grammarly. Because my spelling is all over the place, and it doesn't correct it. Okay.
At first, it's annoying because then everything's a little shifted and your thumbs hit the wrong things, but it always fixes your grammar.
Yeah, because if I'm reading this right, it's like the European Journal if applied Physiology. But anyway, so it's about 1 rep max. So if you're a trainer or if you're into working out, often things are designed with like your 1 rep max in mind. So 1 rep max would be like, what can you how much weight can you do for one full repetition? So if it's like a bench press, if you can do one full rep with 200 pounds, then your 1 rep max is 200 pounds. And so often they'll then extrapolate from that, like your what weights you should use for what kinds of reps. So they'll figure, you can do, 70% for your 10 rep max or, whatever it is. So this was kind of looking at its effect, that the effectiveness of that as a method of kind of measuring training. And so what it did is it took untrained males and females. I don't know how many. I did not write that down. But basically, they tested their 1 rep max on a bicep curl, and then they did 50% of that, 60% of that, 70% of that, and 80% of that to see how many reps they could do. And then the tempo for the reps was 6 seconds total. So what they found, there was a huge difference between men and women. And even among the men and women, there were huge differences in performance. So as far as you could be at for 50%, for example, of the 1 rep max. Men could do 45 reps and women could do 65 reps on average. But even within those numbers, among the men, there was wide variance as far as the numbers they could do. So basically, the idea here is if you're a trainer using 1 rep max to design programs, there doesn't seem to, at least this says that there doesn't seem to be a real straight correlation between your 1 rep max and then what weights you can use at, other percentages. So if you're looking to see what somebody can do for 10 repetitions, you're better off just testing what you can do for 10 repetitions rather than trying to base it on a percentage of your 1 rep max. And I think, the main idea here is there's a difference between your absolute strength and your muscle endurance. And so we've talked about this before, you have a certain amount of strength, your limit strength, they call it, or absolute strength, which is how much you can do, just in one move. How much can you push without time taken into account? How much can, you lift? But muscle endurance, means doing repetitions over and over for an extended period of time. And so there's a difference there, and there are different mechanisms potentially at play. So again, this is a little bit more of a technical training thing. So most people don't use 1 rep max unless they're really just trying to see how much they can lift 1 rep. But if you are using 1 rep max to determine your other weights, you might want to reconsider that and really just focus on whatever the actual reps are.
All right, I'll be sure not to work on my 1 rep max.
Yes. All right. So the second study, again, kind of boring studies today, I guess. Well, depending on who you are.
Well, if you preface that way, it will be boring.
Yeah,
you could have said it was an exciting study.
I like some of the
said it in an exciting tone of
Or
voice.
is he keeping the expectation
Oh,
low?
yeah, that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. For sure.
No, because I like ones that do spark some debate, but this isn't really going to spark much debate. It's more like confirming the obvious, which is basically, 1 day of resistance training a week has plenty of benefits for older populations.
I completely disagree.
For older populations? Oh, you disagree?
Completely
Okay,
disagree.
perfect.
We
All
need
right,
debate.
good. Okay, so not even debate, but brings out interesting questions. But actually, this one is I shouldn't say it's not interesting because it is for older populations. So what they did was, for this study, there was 9 months of exercise where they had 2 groups. One group worked once a week, and the other group worked 2 to 3 times a week with resistance training. And what they measured a number of different things like blood pressure, cholesterol, blood glucose, inflammation, strength, muscle gain, fat loss, and they also measured overall well-being and kind of attitude towards exercise. So what they found was that for things like blood pressure, cholesterol, blood glucose, inflammation, they were benefits from exercise, but it didn't improve with more days a week. So just 1 day a week was enough to show benefits in all of those kind of categories. For things like strength, muscle, fat loss, they saw more benefits with multiple times a week, which kind of makes sense because the more you exercise, the bigger, stronger you'll get. So it can have much more direct effect on your actual muscle mass. And then the other thing they found was that overall well-being was unaffected based on the number of sessions per week. So 1 session a week improved well-being just as much as 2 or 3 per week. Now, the reason why that's important is because people who felt good about exercise or whose kind of the overall well-being was higher, they were more likely to continue with the program. So if 1 day a week is what is effective for somebody, I know a lot of people who have a really hard time getting into the gym to do weights more than once or twice a week, or and so if they can get 1 day a week and they feel good about it, then you should encourage that and not kind of make them feel like, oh, you got to get more days a week in. So it's like a weird little thing where for a lot of exercises, we talk about it often that it's finding a routine that's more important than the habit. And your attitude towards it is more important than the actual results. Because if you're doing something that's unrealistic, or if you're miserable doing it, even if you get results short term, you're not likely to continue with it. So if a 1 day a week program is enough for you to feel good about yourself, then keep doing that and you'll still get results, especially if you're older. So, and especially for older populations who don't tend to do resistance training, I think it's a good, it's just interesting to me and that's useful.
It's really interesting. And it brings about a few things to think about. First off, you don't necessarily want to. The initial thought was, well, you're telling people that just 1 time a week is enough, right? So my mind immediately fires to what you were mentioning. Oh, well, but you need to go, like, why only 1 time a week? You need to go more. You don't want to sort of allow people to be complacent with that and say, oh, well, I'll be fine if I only go 1 time a week. But we're not thinking, or I'm not thinking from the more realistic perspective is that if you're trying to have someone go more than once a week might just result in the program failing, right? So if going once a week really does give those benefits, then that's great. Like that's a huge win, right? If someone can consistently go 1 time a week and enjoy those benefits. Just one quick question: what is meant by overall well-being?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. It's how they feel about. I mean, for this, without getting, so I'm gonna butcher it a little bit, but how you feel, your attitude about life, and then I think. I'm not sure if it. So I conflated two things. I said overall well-being and then mixed that with attitude towards exercise. And I should say it was overall well-being, like how you feel. You're at it. You're how happy you are.
How happy you are. Yeah. Not necessarily how healthy you are. But how happy you are.
So there were health measures, but that wasn't one of the the
Gotcha.
other measures. Yeah. So that was more of a that was a psychological measure, where the other ones were more physiological measures.
Well, it's an interesting thing, right? So, for us, we're thinking, once a week. But once again, if someone is not exercising at all, they're not doing any resistance training, but if 1 time a week is something feasible that someone could do, especially in an older adult, then that's great to be able to incorporate that.
Yeah, something's always better than nothing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And in this case, it's like you're even going to get some of the actual physiological benefits as well. So, and that's, yeah. So
that's exactly what I preach. It's like, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to kill yourself in the gym. You don't have to eat perfectly. Like, you literally just have to do the in the beginning, because what's going to happen is you're going to feel good and then you're going to want to add more. And even if you don't, you're still going to get some benefits out of it. But the idea, I think, would be to at least start once a week and then eventually increase. But sometimes that's overwhelming for people. So it's good to have this as backup to encourage them to at least just commit to once a week. And if that's all they do, that's all they do. If they want to increase after they've been consistent with it for 3 or 4 weeks, then increase.
Cool.
Nice. All right, so let's get to our main topic for today, which is the misconceptions about trainers and dietitians. So I'm sure I had plenty of them when I got started. Maybe I still do. And of course, if there's anything that we left out or anything that you listeners pick up on or something that you learned from this, please write us in. We love to hear the feedback, and because it helps us come up with more content, and it's certainly going to help Ryan and Tony if they are made aware of of anything that you can think of. So I see one. We'll start with something that's a little more light than some of the stuff that we get into. And it's the idea that trainers always have time to work out. Is that true?
It's
you think you're at the gym the whole time, so you got to work out, but that may not be the truth.
Yeah, no, so for any aspiring trainers, we'll talk just for a second, I'll say I'm not quite sure how the topic evolved, but I remember looking at my list of stuff and thinking, like putting an asterisk next to, trainer and dietitian myths, and I'm not quite sure how we got into it. But basically, a lot of this is going to be for people who might want to become trainers, or people who want to work with a trainer or with a dietitian. So these are kind of things that myths or misconceptions, things that you kind of think are one way but really are another way. So just to give a little bit of a background.
Of course, I like to call them misconceptions.
Misconceptions, yeah. Because he's Chef Sonic. So anyway,
I think people figured that one.
Yeah, you never know. I like to be.
We get new listeners.
So let's see. So train. So yeah, you'd think that if you practically live in a gym, you're in a gym all day, you have time to work out. But unfortunately, for a lot of trainers, it's tough to actually get the exercise in for a number of reasons. So like one reason is just time. Like when you're in a gym, you're usually there during, prime hours. And so it's kind of hard to find the time to work out during those times. And then because you're splitting your time, especially if you're early on in your career where you haven't really ironed out a schedule, like you're there early, you're there in the afternoon, you're there late. So you may be too tired to work out. You may, during that hour break, you got to run somewhere else and do something. You if you're in the gym, sometimes it's hard to work out in the gym because people who are, members are going to come talk to you, or your manager is going to come talk to you. So it's just kind of like a distraction. And so you almost have a harder time working out at the gym that you work at because it just becomes too much of a distraction. So for a lot of trainers, it's actually hard to get the time to work out because you're just always, you're on call, like you're on edge.
Yeah.
And I had situations where I actually had to join another gym just to work out.
I know a lot
I
of
just didn't wanna
trainers
stay.
that work out at different gyms than they actually work
or
at.
You just like for most
Exercise.
people,
We used to use exercise and work differently because when you're working,
yeah. And it's like even if you love your job, like, do you really want to spend any extra time there? And so for a lot of people, it's like you just gotta shut off and get away. And so actually for a lot of trainers, it's really hard to
Do you ever
find time
have
to work
like
out.
you've been in a hot kitchen for 8 hours? The last thing you want to do when you get home is cook.
Yeah.
Like sometimes
exactly.
that too.
Yeah, absolutely. No, so it's that kind of a situation where you just kind of want to, which is funny because like I love 3D printing, and I was given this offer to do a day a week where I'm kind of working on printers, and I was like, if I take it, which would be cool, like, do I really want to do that? Because then I might like start to hate 3D printing because then it becomes like a job rather than like a hobby. And then if you're doing your hobby, are you going to like it? But because it's a thing I really enjoy, like getting to learn the intricacies of printers and really get into like building them and stuff might be kind of cool. So yeah, it's like a risk reward, I guess.
So the next thing we have on the list is that training or working with a trainer or a dietitian is a temporary service, right? And well, of course, it could be a temporary, you could start and stop anything. But I think the idea behind that is, I'll just learn a couple things, or learn how to eat right, or learn a couple exercises, and then I'm good. Then I don't have to work with anyone anymore.
So that's a good one. I think the way I compare
You
it
hear
to
that all the time.
I compare it to symptoms of a disease, right? Like, so if the disease is, I don't want to work out itis, right? Then, or I don't want to eat healthy, right? Like if that's your disease, and you want to cure the disease, and you have to figure out how do I cure it? So one of the symptoms, symptoms is not working out. I'm probably butchering this analogy, but regardless, you get the idea. So if you don't want to work out, you hire a trainer, but the trainer is really, it's just a Band-Aid. It's just kind of a, if your thing is you don't want to, I should say that, if your thing is you don't want to work out, and you don't like it, and you hire a trainer, then when you're done with the trainer, if you're like, okay, I'll use a trainer for a little bit, I'll learn some stuff, that hasn't fixed your problem of not wanting to work out. So that's something you have to resolve. So for some people, it might mean finding a different way to work out, finding the path of least resistance. It might mean taking a class, or it might mean, you know what? Screw it, I just need a trainer. I have plenty of people who started with me, and I'm not a hard sell. Like I'm not somebody who, with the client, like if I get the feeling that they just want it temporary, I'm going to work, I'm going to try to give them what they want, send them on their way. And if they want me again, they come back to me. I'm never going to be a hard sell, but I've had plenty of people who start off with me. It's like, yeah, I just want to do like 10 sessions, kind of get started. And then I'm going to, get a program and do my own thing. And I'm perfectly happy to do that. But I've had plenty of people who start like that, and then they just keep doing it. And it's indefinite, it's extended, and it's just because some people they either need the trainer for motivation or they just like the feeling. So whatever the case is, like if your goal with the trainer is I just want to learn and be on my way, just keep in mind, do you have a hard time working out on your own? Because the answer to that is yes, then it's not going to fix that. There's another problem there that you need to resolve. And again, that problem might have any number of solutions, but it may end up with you just working out with the trainer. So I don't know if it's the same with diet and nutrition, but yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on with training.
Yeah.
Do you have people coming in saying, I just need to learn how to eat healthy and then I'll be good?
Yeah, like I have people that just want a meal plan, or they just, want to work with me for a month. But my program, actually, I changed it because there would be people who would start and they think they're fine. And I, as an expert, I know you're not fine. Like, I know there's so much more we can improve in your nutrition. I know that that you're not done. So I actually changed my business model to a minimum 6-month commitment, because I am helping people create a sustainable long-term lifestyle change. And so you really need to learn everything about your nutrition. You need to learn what carbohydrates are, what proteins are, what fats are, what works for you. How does your body react to this? When you get to your goals, chances are usually people come to me for like, maybe they want to lose 20 pounds. They get to that goal. They realize, you know what, I'm killing it. I want to lose another 20. I want to learn how to get stronger in the gym. Like, their goals start to change. And so we don't really know how they're going to react to kind of what I'm teaching them. But I do know for a fact that it's going to take a minimum 6 months. And so, like, kind of similar to what Ryan said is like, I mean, yes, after I do have them like an option after the 6 months, they can graduate, and they're basically graduating from learning what foods agree with their body, reaching their goals, feeling like they've developed healthier habits and behaviors. And I've given them the tools and the skills so they can confidently do it on their own. But some people actually stay with me for the accountability, for the fact that they get to the end of the 6 months and they realize like, all right, now they're at this goal weight, and now they are, they because they've reached their goals, they're now trying to run a half marathon, which they never even thought they could do before. And so now I'm teaching them that. And so it really is dependent on the person, but regardless, exercising and eating healthy is not a temporary thing. So that's like, we can guarantee that whether you want to work with a professional or not, it's really based off of like where you want to go with your pace, like, and how much do you want to learn and how much do you want to get out of it.
And I think that's great that you have a 6-month minimum, because it's for anyone that works for themselves, right? It's super easy to say, all right, well, if you pay me, you want to come in for one session. If you pay me my hourly rate, I'll do my hourly rate. I'll do my best during that, and then you can walk. I'll never see you again. But that's not what you believe in. You
Correct.
don't believe in that approach.
No.
And so that's conviction to say, nope, you 6 months or nothing. So
yeah,
I think a lot of people don't approach things that way. So I think that has a lot of conviction that has how you've made your work.
Yeah, it's how I stand out from others. Like, that's what I'm going against the diet industry. Like, I'm not putting myself in that where it's like, this is a temporary thing. Like, this is your life and it's important. And so we have to create a sustainable plan.
Nice. So, okay. Well, the next thing, this is, this is one that would seem obvious, but, it may not be so. And that's, all trainers and dietitians are in shape and they're all healthy.
I mean, that's definitely not true. But it's a matter of, do you, for some people, you trust their knowledge and what they can give you kind of mentally, like, or motivation wise, but they may not practice what they preach, but that doesn't change their knowledge base. So, I know some people who they could never work out with an unfit trainer, or they couldn't, they're not going to be coached by somebody who wasn't a professional, basketball player, or they won't, they're very strict about whomever I work with for whatever, in whatever capacity, must show the discipline in themselves for me to take them seriously. But that doesn't change that there are plenty of trainers who aren't fit, who are very knowledgeable and very experienced. I think I've talked about it before. Like, one of the most knowledgeable trainers I've ever known was this guy who was, a good, 50 pounds overweight, a heavy smoker, ate horribly, and I never saw him exercise a day, but he was so knowledgeable. He had PhD level kind of knowledge as far as like physiology and exercise. Quite a few trainers I've known over the years who just are not people who are into fitness really themselves, but are as knowledgeable as anybody you'll ever meet. So, but again, the overweight, smoking bad eater, while he might know a lot, he might not motivate people. So there are plenty of people like, yeah, I can't work out that guy. I don't care what he knows, because I working with him will not motivate me. I want my trainer to be kind of an ideal, or somebody that I aspire towards. But there were some people that loved working with him because it made, it made them feel like he was a normal person. He didn't hold himself, to any high standard. Like, so it varies a little bit. But you really, when it comes to trainers, often you can't judge a book by its cover, because I know plenty of trainers that are in amazing shape that couldn't teach you anything. I trust a high school, wrestler, his knowledge over over that person and their professional for 15 years. So, you really can't quite judge a book by its cover with fitness. So unless you need your trainer to be in shape to motivate you, you still want to talk to them and find out what their knowledge base is and if they know enough to help you.
So with dietitians, it's crazy because there's so many layers to this. I've seen dietitians get judged for being too skinny because, like, basically the person, if they go to them who's overweight, if someone's overweight and they're going and they're seeing a dietitian who's skinny, they don't feel like that person can relate to them or understands, or you've never had a weight problem, so you have no idea, which is so most dietitians actually get into the field actually because they struggled with their weight or their health, or just because someone is like, it's ridiculous, honestly. That's like the big thing. That's the only way I can really describe it. Personally, when I first graduated and I was a registered dietitian, I was still on my weight loss journey and I still was considered overweight. And there would be times where I actually had one woman say to me, "How are you going to help me?" She was an overweight woman. She said to me, "How are you going to help me when you have some weight to lose yourself?" And that's like could be a whole other thing, but basically,
did you say to her, well, after I kidnap you and tie you up and starve you, that's how you're going to lose weight?
But like the knowledge that I had and the fact that I was on my journey, you just commented before about how I eat really healthy. I still ate really healthy then. I was just still learning and applying and adapting, and like that didn't change the knowledge that I had. It didn't mean that I still didn't know more and I could still help her. So there's a lot about it. There's a lot of layers to it. And then also I will say too, I think people do think that dietitians think that we eat like super, super healthy, but like, I mean, I still have wine. I drink wine. I drink tons of coffee.
You eat super healthy.
I do eat super healthy, but I also like not all the time, like in the sense of, but I still eat balanced, but that's just who I am. But that's not everyone. Some dietitians are still trying to figure it out. And like, but for the most part, I would say we are a field of people who got into it for a reason. And we do practice what we preach because we were very passionate about it. And we have a story. Every dietitian probably has a story as to why they started that career path.
And I think it's just symptomatic of how we are as a society, classically judging a book by its cover. It's such an old expression, yet we do it. In so many fields, you judge someone on not only on what they've done, but how they look doing it, right? And sometimes you're not even judging on the quality of their work. If someone has if someone has a good sell and they sound like they're doing it, you're going to believe that they're doing it. If they have a really nice website and a decked out social media channels, you're going to think they're good at what they're doing. But it's not necessarily true. You also might think because someone is good at doing one thing that they're good at doing a related thing. I've seen this all the time. Like as a musician, you think that because someone is a good is a good singer, that means they know how to teach singing, which is just completely has nothing to do with each other. So you see that all the time, and that's just symptomatic of how we are. We judge so much on looks, which we get it. That there is important, or so much on like the pizzazz or how people sell things, that we often ignore the quality of their work.
Yeah. Also about like with trainers who are in really good shape, it's assumed that they eat really well and they eat really healthy and they know have all this knowledge about nutrition, which isn't always true. Sometimes it is and sometimes it's not.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Ryan always says that when his clients ask him nutrition and diet advice, that he sort of keeps it pretty simple. Right, and that he would usually recommend to go to someone else, a professional, when it goes beyond a certain scope.
Yeah, I keep it basic. I have a list of like best practices that are more. Some are nutrition like decisions, but a lot are like lifestyle and habit things that all are associated with good. There are certain things that if you follow these habits, you're more likely to eat better. Things like sleeping 8 hours a day.
General health advice, general nutrition is totally fine to give. I think the problem with trainers is they cross the line. If someone's diabetic and they tell them to eat no carbohydrates, stuff like, and which you as a dietitian I've come across that a lot. I get a lot of people in my office where they're it's can be a little bit much. But for the most part, general nutrition advice, I think as a trainer, you have the obligation to give that out.
Exactly. So it's like you keep it basic, general nutrition, and then like I said, I do like kind of best practices of things that will be more likely to keep you on the right path. And then as it gets, if the needs get more specific, like if somebody's like, I'm following all the rules and I'm having a hard time losing weight, maybe we'll do like a, I might have them track their food intake and their calories and see how it measures up against kind of an estimated BMR. But if it's still not working, then it's like, all right, then you got to go see somebody else. You got to see a professional because something is not here, or if it's a health issue.
Even overheard trainers giving
medical
advice.
Well, I think I told you the other a while back it's funny because we just ranted. I don't know if it'll be published yet, but we ranted on anti-vaxxers and all that stuff. But I saw a woman was training her pregnant client. I'm sure I brought this up in the past, and she was telling her not to get vaccines, and she gave her some book on it was like, I wanted, it was the, you asked that episode, if there were times where if there was a time where I wanted to confront somebody, and I probably should have confronted her on that, and just like that, you can't tell somebody that's like way beyond your scope. But yeah, anyway, next question, because I know Tony's got to get out of here soon.
We got to get out pretty soon. So all right, so the next misconception is that dietitians are the food police, and that if you see one, they're going to make you eat everything, twigs and berries.
Pretty much, yeah. That's a lot of people are hesitant to see a dietitian because a dietitian to them represents change, but because of the diet industry, they think it's going to be like a drastic change. But any really good dietitian is going to encourage lifestyle changes, small behavioral changes, little swaps. It's going to align with what you currently eat. Like the first thing I have my initial consultation with a client is we literally go through everything they eat or drink, from the weekends to during the week, and basically we talk about what their goals are, and then together we figure out a plan or a step to take to move them closer to their goal each week. So it's very much on their pace, on their time. I'm not taking away any foods that they don't agree to. We're probably modifying a couple of things, but a good dietitian's going to work with you, and they're not giving you a meal plan, because although that's what people think they want, that's not sustainable, right? They're basically taking your personal diet info and kind of what you're eating and helping you create a plan based off of that. So it's more comfortable and easier to adjust to, and it aligns with your actual lifestyle.
All right. And also, I guess another misconception, or it's just more so like a misunderstanding, is that nutritionists and dietitians are the same thing, or the term is used interchangeably. Yeah.
And so at this point, I kind of just like when people call me a nutritionist, I am a nutritionist. All dietitians are nutritionists. Not all nutritionists are registered dietitians. So the difference usually is basically their background and their knowledge and how long they went to school. And registered dietitians are a little bit more clinical focused. We learn about what's called medical nutrition therapy. So we're helping in treating people from various disease states. And we have a lot of knowledge, and we stay up to date about the nutrition. The term nutritionist isn't a protected title, so anyone can really call themselves that. But there's some really good nutritionists out there that really do know their stuff. It's just kind of hard to tell. What I usually tell people, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But in like any profession, there's going to be good dietitians, there are going to be not great dietitians, there are going to be good nutritionists, not great nutritionists. It's hard to kind of sift through. But in general, yeah, I mean, RD, registered dietitian, we at least went to school for it, for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, and one that it would be an easy pitfall is that the way that that your clients look, whether you're a trainer or a dietitian, is indicative of their service. So that can get pretty complicated, right? Because you see someone who's really, muscular and, really fit. So you say, oh, this trainer is great. See, look what he did with this person. Or you see a dietitian, maybe the person is very skinny, or someone who is still obese, right? So you immediately look at this person and then judge the quality of service. What are the pitfalls in doing this?
So that's that can have a really kind of pernicious effect on. It has had a pernicious effect on the industry as a whole, because we look at success as who has the perfect body, and that's not always successful. And so when gyms market themselves. Like when you do your 6-week weight loss challenge, you're going to show the guy or the girl who lost a ton of weight and has, a six pack, not considering any other context. So if you just look at somebody and see what they train, the question is like, did they get all those clients down from like, well, first thing is like, who works with people like me and what I want? And so you want to consider like what's success for you, and that may not be, for most people, success for them is not being a fitness model. It's a goal for a lot of people and it's an ideal, but it's really hard to get there. So you kind of have to ask that trainer, where did all those guys, if you have a trainer who all their clients look like that, you have to kind of ask like, did all of them start from that place or did they start somewhere else? And then if they started somewhere else, how did they get there? And how they got there, am I willing to do what it takes to get there? For me, especially over the years, like success to me really looks more like, consistency. Who's exercising regularly? Have they spent, if I have somebody who works out and gets in amazing shape, but then they fall off the wagon and gain all the weight back or, stop exercising, that's not successful. Like that's a failure, so the goal and success is that you're able to stay consistent and live a healthy lifestyle. So that I would be more concerned with. So don't necessarily be fooled by the flashy, postcards or videos or marketing materials, or even that the person's training a bunch of people in shape. Like you want to know how they got like that, because just because someone looks a certain way doesn't mean that no trainer is a magic pill. Your work and your effort is going to be what's going to matter. And so that hour a week or 5 hours a week you work with the trainer means nothing if everything in your life isn't focused on getting whatever the results are. So you just always still have to consider that. Like it's about you and what you're capable of doing, and not about who or what that trainer's been working with.
Yeah. And I think like not everyone's trying to get six-pack abs either. Particularly like I think about with my clients, some people do my program because they struggle with emotional eating, and I've gotten them to a place where food no longer has a hold on them. They've been able to manage their stress eating out of sadness, eating out of anger, binge eating. Like those things are real things, and now they can enjoy their life and they enjoy food. And okay, maybe their weight changed a little bit, but that wasn't the goal, what we worked on together. And so like I don't have my clients, they privately show me their transformation photos, but like if you look at my page, my Instagram, my testimonials, they're videos of their words and how they feel and the lessons that they've learned from it, not a transformation photo of like, okay, they started obese and now they have six-pack abs. Like that, for me, that's not technically even healthy sometimes. And like you said, just because someone has six-pack abs, who knows how they got there, right? They it depends where they started and how long in the duration, but who knows if the dietitian or the nutrition coach or the trainer, whoever was behind that, was giving them proper nutrition advice. We have no idea, right? And so it's kind of going back to the whole like perceiving like and associating a certain vision of what someone looks like versus like how they eat and all that, and it's usually not the same.
Yeah, no, it's I guess that becomes the main theme of this of the podcast, is to look a little deeper. Yeah, looks are one indication, but it's not the end all, or maybe not even close to the end all, because there are people that might look really in shape, but they might not be healthy and they might not be happy.
And
right?
That's a bigger one.
And
happiness. You nailed that right on the head.
And maybe they're great now because they're young and they could get away with it. And in a few years, they deteriorate because they haven't approached things the right way. So it's very hard to tell just by looking at someone and making that snap decision, even though we all do it, right? So we are advocating just look a little deeper. Yeah. So you guys have anything else to add?
No.
Was that your list? I got a couple more quick things. One is that it's a temporary job. So I think this would apply more to training than being a dietitian, because I think for dietitian, really, there's very rigid and rigorous educational requirements, where for fitness training, it's not so much. So a lot of people look at it as like a stopgap type of thing. Oh, I'll do some personal training until I figure out what to do with my life. Or people who are kind of midlife. I've had plenty of people who kind of like, oh, I'll get into training, just thinking it's an easy thing, and it's not. Like, yes, it's kind of easy to get in, but it's a very tricky thing to navigate. But for some people, they kind of think it's a temporary career, or it's not a real career, not a real job. And yeah, it's not a real 9-to-5 job, but I know plenty of people who've carved out really nice careers for themselves, really nice lives for themselves.
But in a weird way, then it is a temporary career because people think they could do it, and they realize it's a lot harder than it is.
Yeah,
so
very
quit.
good point. And the kind of one of the more insulting parts, it was for me, is I trained this woman for a long time. And she's a really nice person, and we got along. She's a little bit, maybe like I think she had higher expectations in certain ways for people she was dating. And so I'd find that like she had, like she was dating somebody who was running a business but was kind of a bad, crappy person, and would, do lots of, really sketchy stuff going on. And she was always arguing with him. And then she told me like at one point she was dating a trainer, and the trainer was like a nice guy. But I remember her saying it one day, she was like, yeah, I mean, he's really nice and he's good to me and everything, but he's a trainer. Like, it's not a real career. And then she caught herself like in it because she was saying it to her trainer. And it was interesting. Like,
I'm also
getting that.
I'm also
okay, I get it.
psychologist.
But it's like, it's just funny that but I just found that in the sidebar like kind of funny that like here she is, she was dating somebody with a quote real career, a real business, but who treated her like crap. And then she had a guy who was treating her well, but since he wasn't a trainer, and it wasn't like she was like looking for a sugar daddy, she made a lot of money herself, so it was like, so what, he's a trainer, if he's a nice guy, he's a nice guy. But regardless, like, people sometimes will treat it like it can't be a real career, and it can. It's work, and I think it's grueling, and in some ways it's never ending, but you can totally carve out your own thing. It's just a matter of like, making it work for you, but you can totally have a career doing it. I'm as I can attest to.
Yeah.
So
you
can. It's just a matter of like, approaching it the right way. And if you approach it like a temporary thing, you're not going to be very successful. Let's see. I think I have one more. We'll do it real quick. And that is that. So this is kind of so that kind of trainers need to be meatheads. Or the trainers are meatheads.
That
I
one's
should
true.
say.
That
That's always one. That, like, you get all kinds of people. You get trainers that are meatheads. You get trainers that are nerds about fitness, because like anything, people are nerds about anything. People like even fighting. Like, you got lots of guys that fight. They're all nerds about
MMA
fighting.
are big time
if you're into
nerds.
comics, you're a
It's
nerd about
very nerdy
comics.
sport,
So same with fitness. You can be a super nerd about fitness. There's so much stuff and so technical that some of the guys I would talk to, it's just crazy hearing the way we would talk to each other about exercise. So you get it with anything. You get people that come from all kinds of careers. So I knew multiple people who quit very high paying jobs as lawyers to become trainers because they just hated doing what they were doing and they wanted something new. People all walks of life that become trainers. So it's not just like the meathead thing. And in fact, it's really tough to be just like a meathead, because you do have to be fairly intelligent to be successful as a trainer, unless you're just that, you're that kind of diamond in the rough that's able to kind of just get by on some weird charm, but being a dunce. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, like it's all kinds of people that become trainers.
Well, going off that, because I think fitness and nutrition are both very science-based, and to be a good trainer and to be a good dietitian, you have to be relatable and you have to be personable. So I don't know if that like, that's not really what you're saying, but like kind of it is. Like, I think if anyone's going into the field, you really have to genuinely want to help people. And that's like huge.
Yeah. No, that's
so you have to be a nerd, but you also have to be relatable. It's kind of hard. But yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Remember when there was a time where like being a nerd was like not considered cool, and then things changed where like video games became like $1-billion industries. Game of Thrones became super popular, and like all these things that comic books now dominate the movies. So things that were considered nerdy are now cool. And people that are the nerds are the richest people on earth. Now that's always somewhat been the truth, but now it's a lot like the modern nerd, is a lot sexier.
What bugs me is like
nerd.
Growing up, because I was so quiet, everyone just assumed I was a nerd, but I was never smart enough to be like really a nerd. So I got not bullied, but kind of made fun of for being a nerd. And I got the negative part of that, but I didn't get the smart part, which is the intelligence, and then the becoming like a billionaire later on. So I kind of lost them on both ends. Kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So.
But you were exactly.
Yeah, but then you were also given genetic free gifts with Body Wise. So
Not really.
you that more than makes up for it.
I don't know about that. Yeah, it makes up for the traumatic childhood. I guess. All right. Well, anyway, anything else to add?
Nope.
Tony?
I gotta catch a train.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, Tony's gotta get out of here. So we quick close. You can find all our stuff at thegymwits.com. Send in your questions for Ask the Trainer. Comments, concerns, thoughts, anything. We love to engage. All right. That's it. I'm Ryan George.
I'm Justin Guild, aka Chef Sonic, reminding you that truth does not sell.
And I'm Tony Marinucci, aka Tips with Tony, a registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.
And we are
The GymWits.